Hey, Christopher, how's it going?
Good, good.
Let's talk about you for a second. You are a scientific investigator, correct?
That's correct.
What is your day-to-day job like? Do you are you like a ghost hunter? What do you do exactly?
Well, the cases I get about 100 calls a week from around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to sort of pick and choose whatever the situation is, which is I think the people are in the most dire straits. Usually, if there's children or there's family involved, whatever the phenomena is, and then I assist them, consult them in regards to dealing with it, how to encounter it. Before, when I was part of the scientific group, of course, that day-to-day was very different because as a scientific team, there were usually a contingent of at least 16 scientists, ranging from everything from astrophysics to zoology, and we went out around the world with this huge unlimited resources of scientific technology to assess these anomalies to try to understand what they are.
You also have done work on Psi Factor, correct?
That's correct.
And
yes.
I read that you begun your career in entertainment, like as an illusionist, a magician.
Right. Magic and illusion is where I got my start in the entertainment industry, yes.
Okay, so do you still treat the craft kind of like fantasy, or is it something that you wholeheartedly believe in?
The craft, you mean magic?
No, just paranormal activity in general.
Paranormal phenomena. Well, it's certainly, I think with a foundation coming from the world of magic and illusion, initially, and I think this is true with, there's a good percentage of magicians or illusionists that are skeptical because I think they can understand how people can easily misperceive events. So initially, when people began to approach me with experiences, hauntings, whatever, I was skeptical. And I could find these rational explanations. And from that point, I began to do parapsychological research until I joined the scientific group. And I think having that foundation obviously gives credence to the methodology that the scientific group taught me because we try to rule out rational explanation. And it's good 70 to 80% of encounters that people have with paranormal phenomena has a rational explanation. Some of them are really extraordinary explanations, but they have rational explanations. On the other hand, that 20 to 30% which defy the laws of nature and physics, it gives even more credence to those because you've ruled out explainable circumstances which could be creating these events.
Okay, I guess that leads directly to this. How close to, I guess, quote-unquote reality is paranormal activity to the average person?
Well, to the average person, I think it will certainly feel like it's a real event. The technique and method in which they film it, what I like to refer to as a pseudo-reality type feel and tone, has a tendency to draw you in, just like Blair Witch did, and a lot of reality shows on TV, which is really produced reality. It sort of plays a trick with your mind. You have that voyeuristic element, so suddenly you lower your guard because you feel like you're actually eavesdropping. You're part of the reality. And so when the events happen, they push buttons significantly harder for people. That whole experience is there. Ironically enough, the writer-director who created the film, I don't know if he was aware of it or not, but the way he's depicting the phenomenon in the film is actually very close to what people are experiencing around the world when they encounter poltergeist activity or extreme cases of phenomena that they can't explain.
Talk to us about the film. Paranormal is defined as unnatural events. What is the overall synopsis, I guess, of the movie?
The premise of the film is about a couple in a typical suburb, and they, right off the bat, you get the idea that something unusual is happening in their house, some type of paranormal activity. And they're trying to document it and record it so that the guy can basically dismiss what it is, finally get to the root of what it is, and say, okay, this is what's causing it. He's a skeptic, and he's taking the role, sort of the male. I'm not going to say, I don't want to say macho, but he's taking this role where he wants to understand it and dismiss it. As they begin to do this, what actually he's kind of inadvertently doing is opening Pandora's box to the circumstances, and he's infuriating it, making it worse. And then the tension between the two of them also builds as the phenomena is building. And they can continue to employ technology to try to document it and get an understanding of what it is. And you watch as on each day it steps up more and more, and the phenomena becomes more tangible until, of course, it takes a very disturbing dark turn. I don't want to, get away, but it's certainly the way the phenomena is, how they react to it. It definitely feels like there's a grounded element of realism in there.
Is the actual paranormal thing on a quest to abduct the couple or possess them? Is it after them for any particular reason?
After watching it, you kind of read between the lines of, what the intent is. Certainly, the writer-director wanted to leave you with wondering what is the intent. And just like with the phenomena I encounter for real every week, it's kind of like there's some degree, there's an element of like from the movie Jaws, where you really don't know, I mean, other than the fact that this shark is just hungry, you really don't know why the phenomenon happens to come in and does this. Obviously, it's clear that the shark has a vendetta, which is kind of weird for a shark to do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and in the same sense, this phenomena, there's some kind of agenda to it. And all you can try to guess is, what's its agenda? Is it personal? Is it they're trying to communicate? Obviously, by the end of the conclusion of the film, you realize, whether it's inadvertent or not, things are going very bad. And it's really open to interpretation of what the real agenda is, what it's trying up to.
Okay. I read somewhere that there were a couple of alternate endings. Do you know anything about the alternate endings?
I heard early on there was a version created, and I do not know what that original version was. I do not know what the alternate entity actually is. I know I've only seen now the version which is out in theaters.
Okay. I like to call this comment on the tweets. I type in a subject into Twitter and everything pops up. So paranormal activity is actually a trending topic on Twitter. Here's what came up. So I want you to just kind of comment.
Okay.
One of them here says, "What the F? I'm so scared to see it, and I just learned a sequel has been announced for Paranormal Activity." Can you comment on that? Is there really a sequel, true or false?
I've heard that there's been buzz in the entertainment industry about one because it's doing extremely well. No surprise that it's going to do this good. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a sequel. I think there's definitely room for it to crank it up and to make the story even more compelling.
All right. The other one says, to anyone that's a huge cake when it comes to horror films, do not, I repeat, do not see Paranormal Activity. Are people really this terrified?
I think so. And I think, the reason is because it kind of hits home, literally. It actually takes you into the safety of a couple's home, and you begin to realize paranormal phenomena or experiences of it are actually more common than we think. In the U.S., culturally, Gallup polls were showing that a majority of people have paranormal experiences or encounter them. Unfortunately, though, our culture is very different from the rest of the world in that we like to dismiss it and put it under the, sort of sweep it under the rug.
Of course.
It only makes things worse. In these circumstances, what we're kind of undoing is the sanctity or safety of being in the home and realizing that we really have no control. And so when these phenomena happen, it's very disturbing to people. And the same thing happens in the film. You're discovering that these people really have no control over the circumstance.
One last one. The last tweet that I want you to comment on says you're either going to love it or hate it.
I think that is true. And, an interesting dynamic with that would be depending on your defense mechanism. If you're going into the movie with your guard up significantly, then, it's different from having your guard up because you don't want to get scared, but it's different to have your guard up if you're a skeptic and you don't like the style of filmmaking, that kind of thing. Then you're basically already setting up how you're going to walk out of it. I think if people are open to it, they're open to the style of the film, they're open to the story, I think they're going to get rewarded at the end. The ticket's going to be worth it. But again, if they're kind of a traditionalist regarding going to the film, the movies, and regarding the subject matter, then they're probably going to walk out feeling, well, they didn't get their money's worth. I think the important thing to do when seeing the film is you've got to have an open mind. You've got to be able to think outside the box and just sort of, like a roller coaster ride, go along with the experience.
All right. AOL is saying that viewers are leaving the screening mid-film, not because they're dissatisfied, but because the film was so frightening. So I'm sure you would agree that it's definitely a thrill.
Yeah, definitely a thrill. It would be the right way of defining it.
Okay. Is there a website for the movie where we can get more information on it that you know about?
There is. I believe there is paranormalactivity.com, if I'm not mistaken, is the actual website.
Very cool. Christopher, thanks so much for hanging out with us.
My pleasure. Happy Halloween.
Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye.